and welcome to the Cheese Room podcast. I'm Becky, your host for this evening. Welcome along on this Easter Monday. Hope our viewers have all had a nice long weekend, if that's what they are allowed to have. Spurs winning always helps, I am sure. So tonight we've got a great show with some great guests. Craig, I feel like I didn't get the memo about the slightly greeny background tonight. You've all got the same background, and I've got all my flags. But yeah, got some great guests. Let's go around the room. Craig, I know, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, hi.
How are you, Craig?
Yeah, hi, Bex. How you doing? Yeah, really good, really good. I convinced myself. Well, I changed my mind about three or four times about going to the game on Saturday. Eventually, I went. Pleased I went in the end. Got to meet Lucas Moira. Had a selfie with Lucas, which was good. And enjoyed elements of the game. I think elements of the game. So looking forward to discuss it with you fine people tonight.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's like it had everything, didn't it? Apart from a red card on the pitch, it had pretty much everything going on. HG in Vienna, how are you? How's your Easter weekend been?
It's been all right. We were talking about this before we came on air, but today was the holiday. They don't get Friday off, but Monday is a holiday. So it's been nice. Everything's been shut. My daughter went to the playground and I didn't. Got to stay at home and relax. It's been
cool. And Jack, over there across the pond, how's your work? We understand, is that right?
Yeah, I'm still at work. It's towards the end of the day, and I couldn't get home in time to get this up and running. So I'm going to do it from my greenish gray background here. So yeah, doing very well.
Good, that's great. Okay, right. Usual housekeeping, please. Welcome along to everybody in the chat. If you could hit the like button for us and subscribe if you haven't already, that would be fantastic. Right, like I said, let's get to it. Quite a lot to kind of get through, really, on and off the pitch. So before we started, it was 5th versus 6th. Lineups, pretty much an unchanged team, wasn't it, for the start? Everton. What was your take on that, Craig?
Sorry, I was distracted by Phil's comment in the group chat. Yeah, it's good. I've got a bit of a sore throat, I think, and it seems to be. It's a bit husky, and it's been like that now for a few weeks, and I can't seem to shift it. But I'm also acutely aware when you're live on YouTube, it's really difficult to cough and clear your throat, isn't it? And things because you're constantly talking, or sneeze or whatever. Exactly. So yeah, it's not the first time, Phil, I've heard it. It's been mentioned in the group chat a few times about my inner Deitch. So anyway, I've been called worse. Sorry, Becky, what's the question again?
Lineups, the same team that started Everton, wasn't it? So yeah, no Danjuma, no.
Yeah, I mean, I got all excited in my mind because I generally thought that Sarr was going to start. Whether that was in a midfield three or in to replace one of Skippy or Højbjerg, I wasn't sure. But I thought I was partly egged on by the feature in the matchday programme. And secondly, the fact that Sarr was hitting the socials a lot the last week, looking up to the game. So I thought, okay, well, maybe there's something in this. But I was disappointed to see he wasn't given his chance to start. But other than that, the team is what I fully expected it to be. So, yeah, no surprises from my end.
HG, what was your take on that?
It'll be the same next week, won't it? I mean, we're going to have this discussion. Much more this season. They're the fit 11. They're going to start every game, and that's pretty much it. I don't like it. I think that we change things up depending on opponent, and you're always worried you're going to get overrun in midfield because this is this season. But, yeah, I can't say I was too surprised because Stellini is Conte, and Conte the people they've always.
Yeah, Jack, you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think anyone who was expecting something different was working on hope. But I agree with Craig. I would have loved to have seen a three-man midfield. A 3-5-2 would have made a lot of sense. I think we can probably all agree to that. But that's not what we are going to get. And unless something dramatically changes going forward, I think that's what we're going to get. The team picks itself.
The thing that frustrated me, I think, is Stellini said in his press conference on Friday, didn't he, that we couldn't make changes. We have too many injuries. And it's like, well, after losing the lead at Southampton, losing the lead at Everton, this is an opportunity to try and make a change. But yeah, and I'm the same there with the socials thing. Sarr was the cover on the program. They tweeted a picture of his kit, I think, just about maybe 2 hours before kickoff or an hour before kickoff. Dan Juma's tweeting constantly. I said this, in the past, that it's almost like it's a contractual thing, because if you remember, Basuma used to do it loads and then he didn't play, and now Sarr does it and doesn't play. Richarlison used to do it and didn't play. And it's almost like part of their contract to kind of, get the anticipation. But what it does is then causes loads of frustration because people think they're going to play when they're not. And I think that's ill-advised as well. But yeah, I was the same. I had a bit of a nightmare on Saturday. I didn't have Jack. That's not the reason. Traffic was bad. You forget that on a Saturday you've got all the other football traffic. So and I know the League One and Championship, some of them played on Friday, but there was still a lot of people driving around on Saturday. So I got to the ground and the stadium and Tottenham all really late, and everything's kind of like behind. So I literally got into the ground at like 10-3 and didn't see the kind of we'll come on to it later on, but didn't see the handshake between De Zerbi and Stellini and any of that. And yeah, I saw the team and went, oh, it's the same team. All right, okay. And after being at Everton and just seeing so many similarities on Saturday to Everton, where we go ahead and we just sit back, and that was kind of that kind of sense that not toxic, but that kind of audible sort of frustration in the ground is definitely intensifying. But yeah, so so like I just said, that they're kind of. Did anybody in the panel did the TV pick up on the kind of the handshake and the finger pointing before kickoff? Because I didn't see that until I watched the game back on Sunday.
Yeah, no, they did on German. They did. They didn't really know what was going on. And you could see De Zerbi, finger in Stellini's face. But at that point, no one had any idea what the problem could have been. But it was clear that it was a long-held grudge or something that he about for a while. It's kind of those weird things that you see it, but before a game, I mean, what have we done? Have we turned off water in the changing? Have we done one of those silly little pranks that you often felt a bit like before a game? Why? I think we were all just trying to think what could happen in their part to make De Zerbi be so angry, because even in the initial conversation, Stellini's on plus. It wasn't. He was well aware. It looked like he didn't know either what De Zerbi was upset about. So I think we're going to be winning. It clearly was.
HD, your sound is dead glitchy, really in and out, really glitchy. Have a go with that. But yeah, like I said, I didn't see any of it. I just saw that when I saw on Sunday. But apparently it was something to do with comments in a press conference. Is that right, Craig?
Yes.
Jack?
Yeah, so
is it something to do with? Well,
yeah. So the rumor was, this is a rumor. Obviously, I don't know how true it was, that there was something said. Well, I know this to be true. I think that in the press conference, Stellini was asked about the Brighton manager, and the Brighton manager has misconstrued what he said to be that essentially his takeaway from what Stellini said was you're basically living off Potter's legacy at Brighton, which is absolutely not what Stellini said at all. If you look at the whole quote of the whole press conference, it was really complimentary about the work and actually said that he built on what Potter had done at Brighton and made them harder to beat. Nevertheless, he interpreted it that way. I then heard at the game that before the game, the Brighton manager said something to Stellini along the lines of, "You're not even a real manager, or you're not even a proper manager." And then Stellini then responded and said, "You're only in the chair because Potter got fired." And then that's what led to the bad tensions, if you like, on the petulance on the sidelines before the game. Yeah.
It was reported in Football.London that there was particularly a headline that one of the Italian outlets published that basically took he built on Potter, and it made it sound like he was denigrating him, when anyone who can read the transcript would know for a fact that he was effusive in praise as to the work he had done. He did call him an aggressive player, an aggressive manager, but I don't know how that translates in Stellini's mind. But in the context of what he said, it wasn't a negative. It wasn't he was trying to downplay what he was done at all. So I think it just got completely blown out of proportion.
Isn't it funny though? You've got two Italian managers there, and things are getting lost in translation. What on earth, you know? And like I think as well it's almost like it was one of the things that we're talking about that kind of hid, you know, sort of 20 minutes of the game because nothing was really going on. It's just, yeah, I saw John tweet today that the kind of Stellini in thing for Spurs lasted about 24 hours, and now that's done with. Yeah, so the game starts. Oh, Smudge is here. Oh, hello. No, don't go on my laptop. Yeah, so the game starts, and then 5 minutes in, they have the ball comes across, doesn't it? And Dyer's having to kind of head it away, and it was like the Everton game was just like a continuation of the start of the Brighton game. Because I've not spoken to you since the Everton game. What's your take on Lloris back in goal? HG, what's your take on that?
I don't really see. I mean, I hope the mic is okay.
Yeah.
I don't really see much difference between Forster and Lloris, if I'm honest. I know that Lloris has made a load of few mistakes this season, and Forster, and we've conceded a number of goals, but it wouldn't be his fault. But I feel like they're much of a muchness. I don't look at Lloris and think he's a massive improvement, but I don't look at him coming thinking, oh well, that's harsh on Forster. You know, Lloris has been number one at Spurs for a very long time. Yeah, I wasn't surprised. So like, it's one of those weird things. If Forster made save after save, well, I also don't want to see that either, because it means that teams are shooting a lot. But I don't see much difference between the two. It says enough about Lloris because he used to be a lot better.
Yeah, Jack, do you not think that Forster would kind of deserve to continue in team and that, you know, kind of how the presence that he's had and that sort of thing?
Yeah, you could make that argument on performance that there was no reason for him to lose his job. It's hard if your club captain is healthy. It's hard not to have them come in, I guess. But I don't know how much of that plays into it. For me, Hugo is going to be the more likely the two to win you a game just by pulling a save out that Forster can't. But at the same time, statistically, it's clear that Forster's better with his feet and his distribution. He's more accurate on those intermediate balls, and so I'm more comfortable with him when we're playing out of the back, especially very deep, where you're playing that square ball along the end line to a center back who you don't have a lot of confidence in, who then knocks it back to Lloris. So you're just panicking when you're watching that. So, and even when he does put his leg into it, he doesn't get it as far as Forster. So I go with AG either way. I'm not really fussed one way or another, but I could certainly see, given the way we're playing, that Forster would look maybe better in the back, just because
the general consensus in the chat seems to be similar, that, you know, he makes people nervous, he makes the team nervous. You know, yes, he's captain, but he's never been that kind of commanding, kind of shouty captain. And, you know, like I said, you know, I was saying before when I was on Holly's show, I didn't meet a single person on Saturday who thought we were going to win. And normally when you speak to people around the ground, they're like, yeah, it's okay, we'll get something. And not one person just didn't really feel. And then we start the game, Brighton play really expansive, Matoma's on the ball really quickly, and then we have that chance, it comes over and Dyer has to head it away, and you're thinking, this is the kind of way it's going to be for quite a lot of the game. And I just think that the playing out from the back thing just invites that continued pressure. It's just such high risk. And if you've not got Højbjerg and Skip playing well enough to kind of retrieve the ball when it flicks over, we're already, or they make a mistake, we're already on that kind of defensive, aren't we? And it just doesn't massively help. But 10 minutes in.
I mean, Becky, I think it's a really good point. Right? That Lloris, after the game, everyone was thinking, that went through Lloris and he should have saved it.
Yeah.
In the first half, probably certainly kept us in the game. I mean, if either one of those goes in, it was the second. It was Caicedo where he tipped it onto the post that they were here. I must have seen before I noticed that Lloris had got a touch on that. It's kind of weird. Like, if you shoot down his feet, you might score. Can't get down. Bigger guy, but maybe at the goal that Brighton scored, Forster had a save in that because there's just more of him across the goal. So it's kind of like, pick your poison a little bit with them. But I mean, I think Lloris did okay at the weekend. I certainly think that the goal that we his fault, and outside of that, I'm not sure he did too much wrong. Like, I don't like him kicking the ball out deep, but I don't like Foster doing it either. Like, I don't want a goalkeeper kicking the ball inside his own 6-yard box when he doesn't need to, when he could have done that from the goal kick initially. That's the bit. I'm not sure I can think of any goalkeeper like, I'm really happy with you on the ball 6 yards from your own goal. I don't want an outfield player there trying to do something stupid. I want us to kick it out as quickly as we can and fight for a second ball.
Agreed.
But yeah, so like I said, 10 minutes in, then Perisic is on the ball, passes it inside, and then the rest is history. Really, a fantastic kind of Sonny-esque curler. Craig, you had a Sonny goal in the North Stand. That doesn't happen very often. How was your view of that?
A goal in the North Stand is a treat, isn't it? To be fair.
Yeah, and a Sonny one's very rare.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Really, really good goal. A bit against the run of play, wasn't it? I think I don't think anyone was expecting it in the ground. But fantastic goal. It's just classic Sonny at his best, wasn't it? Cutting in on that side and then putting it into the top corner with that curl. Where we was in upper north, it was a great visual of the goal. But the build-up play to it was quite good as well. It's the first bit of decent play I thought we put together with the ball in that first half that led to a goal. So yeah, really good goal. Yeah.
And what was it like watching it at home, Jack?
Well, you have that view that you see so often. It's coming at kind of an angle on the diagonal, and you see him cut inside, and you say, okay, in the past, you're already kind of getting up from your seat because you know what's coming. But today, you're kind of like, I was just sitting back and I'm talking to my son on the phone and we're not even expecting anything. And then he lets it fly. And that's when I get up because I'm just so it's just so we haven't seen it. And even when he has hit it, it's not been that perfect shot that actually kisses inside the post and goes in. I mean, I was amazed that he hit it. It was his only shot of the game.
Yeah, and I can see Davo's put in the comments, and he put this on Twitter as well. It's like, who made the pass? Yeah, once a season, we've got an assist from Perisic to Son. Yippee! The thing for me is, I said this on Holly's show earlier tonight, is that I love Sonny and I've defended him all season. Even in his post-match interview, he said that something along the lines of, before I couldn't play in that position, I had to play inside, so the wing backs were 1-for-1, and he was sort of basically implying that he was not having to do that on Saturday. And I said to the person standing next to me straight away, he looked a lot freer on Saturday. You could see he was changing sides, he was playing in different positions. And I didn't even know it was his 99th going on 100th. But, for him to be the first Asian player to score 100 Premier League goals, I think, yes, he's had a bad season, but that deserves some kind of credit and respect, I think. And hopefully that is the opportunity that we do sort of see some slight tweaks, not necessarily in formation, but kind of the way they sort of move around, that he kind of kicks on from that, and Kane said that in his post-match interview as well, that he said something along the lines of Kane's been there for every single one of those 100 goals, which, yes, that means he's been here a long time. But I think if those two can kind of work really well, then there's a chance for the rest of the season, I think. But yeah, we were in the South Stand, and like I said to Craig, they're the type of goals that we normally see in the second half in the South Stand from Sonny. To see that in the first half, the thing that's disappointing for me, I think, is that we didn't kick on from that, much like we did in Everton. We go 1-0 up, which is brilliant. 10 minutes. Why aren't we kind of kicking on? 17 minutes in. What was your take on the first Matoma incident, Jack, with the handball sleeve?
Because I'll say outright, I don't know what a handball is anymore. I've given up trying to tell. But this is my viewpoint of it. Is I understand the argument that says it was in the sleeve portion, and that is a legal play, that's an extension of the chest and the shoulder and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of get that. From the view that I got from the broadcast, it seems clearly that the motion with the arm is the only reason that the ball curls into his path and he puts it in the net. And from my vantage point, being, I look at it and say, that's a handball. You use the bicep to help to cushion it and bring it into your step and put it in the back of the net. To me, that's a handball. But clearly, there are a lot of people who say I'm wrong.
I mean, Jack, they've clearly made the explanatory illustration clearer, so there's no doubt as to what's a handball now, is it not?
I must admit, when
yes.
I was messaging John this afternoon, and John messaged me and went, "Oh, look what I found," and I went, "Oh, okay, we've got coloured coded bits and we've got red bits." I think after the Sissoko thing at the Champions League final, everyone seems to understand that it's below the sleeve is handball. I'm there with Jack in the stadium. For me, we can go into the kind of defensive problems with it in a minute, but in terms of the actual motion, to me, Mitoma does that kind of motion and it kind of gets him here, and he's doing that kind of motion. I think he's trying to sort of almost like chest the ball into the position that he wants to take a shoot, and he just happens to kind of go like that, and then by raising the arm makes it more handball.
Yeah. Did you see it as handball, Becky, in the ground? Did you think it was handball in the ground?
No. And because it took so long for the VAR, we were like, oh, it's obviously, they've obviously decided it's not handball, and now they're deciding if he's offside, because it happened so quickly and everyone's so flat-footed that you just think, well, he must have been offside. He wasn't offside. He was clearly onside by quite a bit. But when you sort of see it, I think, oh, they're taking so long. They must have decided it's not handball. They're now checking with the line to see if he's offside. And then they decided that it wasn't handball. So like exactly what Jack said, no one seems to know anymore what is it. But let's go into kind of the way it kind of was, because for me it was like, this is the type of goal I really thought Brighton would score against us. HG, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean they're the types of goals Brighton score. I mean they're very curt, and I mean that was a simple to the box, but they took advantage of it very well. They're looking for the runners. The runners are always there. It's weird looking at the diagram you put up about it can hit the shoulder but not the arm, and I'm like, I mean, I'm sorry, it would be able to only hit my shoulder and not my arm. I don't see how that's even possible. So it feels like if it doesn't hit your chest, it's handball. But yeah, Brighton, I mean, we've seen, even under Potter, the chances they missed were very similar to the ones they're scoring. It's not as if the style of football has changed. They just seem to be putting them away. And Mitoma's only come in, pretty much since De Zerbi was there, and has scored, 7 or 8 goals now? If that one had been... If that one had counted, I think it would have been 8. So it's Brighton are what we thought they were, which is better than Spurs. Let's face it. I watched it live and I didn't think it was handball. I saw it kind of hit his arm and then kind of went onto his chest a little bit before dropping. And honestly, I was impressed with the control. I can bet if it's a Spurs player, I don't trust many to be able to do what Mitoma. Kane could do it. Son, I'm not so sure about. So it's a weird one, but yeah, I think Spurs, to me, like, had the linesman not given it, the goal would have been, and because the linesman gave it as handball, they couldn't really change their mind. It's like for the linesman to make that decision, thank you, but it was pretty harsh. I don't get the impression that he didn't catch the ball, he didn't hit him down here, this part of his arm where you could think, okay, I can really control it. It seemed a relatively natural thing for me.
Yeah, and I think, like you're saying, we felt in the stadium, the longer it was taken, the more likely they were going to give it. For me, it was just like the way Brighton start and the way they play is so sort of one-touch, expansive. It's like what we played towards the end of last season, certainly at home games. And it kind of came over, Dyer's sort of out of position, like you said, it's very kind of rigid, and then either way into, and I wouldn't have been surprised if it had been given. The thing, I don't know, Craig, if you agree with me, is it really changed what little atmosphere that there was. So the atmosphere wasn't brilliant. It wasn't brilliant at Forest, but it started reasonably well. And after that, maybe because of the delay in it as well, the atmosphere went really kind of quiet. Is that kind of fair?
Yeah, I think it's because we just, the way I interpreted the game at that point is it was all Brighton, wasn't it? Brighton were just dominating us all over the pitch, and I think it was just this feeling of inevitability. Yeah, it was feeling. Oh, I've got an echo. I don't know where that comes from. So yeah, feeling of inevitability that it was going to end up with Brighton scoring, even with the disallowed goal. I turned around to my brother and said, "It's inevitable." They'll all score. It's going to come, and I think that's part of what was going on. And I think there was this in the ground. I don't know if you felt the same way, Becky. It was everyone was waiting for it to turn toxic. It was almost that. I think it was almost like waiting for the excuse, waiting for something in order to turn on Levy, to turn on the establishment, whatever. And I thought, yeah, it was just it was a weird atmosphere throughout, really. I don't think, my take on it, being a season ticket holder, being at the games, is we weren't the best as fans, I don't think, on Saturday. In terms of we wasn't the best support team on Saturday. Does that make sense? That's not to say I've seen, we created a lot better atmospheres than what we created on Saturday. It just felt all a bit flat and a bit down on Saturday for me.
Yeah, which is, like I said, it's strange when, we've gone ahead. And usually when we go ahead, that kind of does build the atmosphere. We said this before, it's a two-way thing. The atmosphere comes from playing well on the pitch and the two things come together. Yeah. But once you said they kind of like continue having that sort of deeper and deeper and losing possession in midfield and silly sort of errors, it just, and I think the kind of the Levy out things shouts were definitely louder, or there was sort of from where I was, certainly more of them. The chants for Pochettino were the most I've ever said, repeatedly, that I've ever kind of heard, which is a tricky one. You've got a coaching team that have come in and trying to do their best, and we're singing about a different manager. I know they're trying to kind of communicate with the board, but
I mean that chant, the Pochettino, well, both the Pochettino and the Levy out chants, both, as you wouldn't surprise, it originated from the South Stand, didn't it, Becky, where you would have been? It never actually made its way round. No. Maybe a smattering of the Pochettino made its way round to the North Stand, but in the main, it was, I would say, 90% of it come from the South Stand. But I thought it was quite interesting because the Pochettino in chant, or the Pochettino chant, came after when Stellini was sent off, wasn't it? It was straight after that, the red card incident for Stellini, that they started chanting it. I don't know if that was what if that was the
I think it was. It was all. It was. I remember thinking it's like they were sending off, and then that's when they're choosing the opportunity to sing it rather than singing about Mason or something.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's get back on with the game. Okay. So we've talked already kind of there about that save. We're saying about the save from like the fingertips from. Well, the first one is from McAllister, isn't it? Lloris pushes it out down to the corner flag. It kind of comes back in. Højbjerg loses the ball, and then Caicedo has a shot, and Lloris sort of fingertips it away. And I've written here in the run sheet that's when the crowds really started getting quite edgy. There was then one chance afterwards where Sonny was in some space, passed it to Højbjerg, and his shot was blocked kind of on the left-hand side. And there was a few, I remember there was one time where Skippy kind of ran forward and took on 4 or 5 players, and then was sort of fouled down in the corner area, and it wasn't given. And it was just sort of like, tidbits of bits, really. So I've put here, the next thing I've put in the run sheet here is then there was a point, this is on 30 minutes, is that McAllister kind of went down somewhere, I think near the halfway line, and Romero sort of bent over him and shouted in his face, much like kind of in the Maguire own goal last season at United. What's our kind of take on kind of Romero and how things went with him this week, certainly? Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, I started to pick up on that there's clearly some people whose patience seems to be wearing thin with Romero, and but at the same time, he sits 2 cards from, one card over the next 2 games from missing 2, I think, at this point. And I would like to ask any Spurs fan, do they feel better if he doesn't play? I realize that there are issues that you can have with him, but at this point, can you possibly, we have far greater problems than Romero. I don't understand what the problem is. What he needs is a coach with a firm hand and some people on the field to keep them under control, which doesn't seem to be happening. But he is far from our problems. I get the complaints, but come on, the guy is the best defender on the squad, and that may be a low bar. I recognize that he's clearing, but still, I don't understand why people are focusing their angst and frustration on him of all players. I don't think it's a lack of effort. I don't think it's like, I don't think he's certainly not dogging it out there. He's certainly not, downing tools or anything. You can complain about the style and his aggressiveness and his ability and his wanting to run forward and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, in the Everton game, he was some of our best attacking threat late. He's the only one getting upfield. So I just think people are just focusing on the wrong thing, if you ask me.
Yeah. Has anyone seen the footage? Go on.
So if we go back a couple of seasons to another Argentinian that liked to get a yellow card, people loved him for it. So, like, what's the difference? Like, why suddenly is Romero suddenly a bad guy for doing it, whereas the other Argentinian was a hero for doing it? The dark arts, the shithousery, whatever you want to call it. I don't understand the difference. Is it because maybe that Romero's ceiling is that much higher that people think that you could be more than just that, whereas the other guy probably couldn't have been any more than what he was?
I think the other thing that's slightly worrying is like you said, it's who we've got to come in to replace him. We saw with Sanchez coming on at Everton and him sort of, trying to play left centre back, and how that, how bad that went. Is that without Romero, it's quite a low bar. And I know last year when Sanchez came in, I remember for the North London derby, and he stepped up. It's just if we had more strength in depth, it wouldn't matter that we have the odd bookings. I think getting booked in the 89th minute on Saturday for really nothing was just a silly thing to do, and that's the sort of thing he needs to cut out. We can't kind of tone down that the challenges that he makes. That's in him, and if we didn't have that, we probably wouldn't have the player that we have. But the little sort of silliness around sort of 89th minute bookings, like as Jack said, when we're near to kind of suspensions and not, and I've seen like yesterday, he's like, they had like a drinks break and he's squirting his water bottle at McAllister and stuff like that. And that's really funny, but it's just other parts of it that are just slightly frustrating when, like I said, if we haven't got anybody else that can step up the same quality as him, it wouldn't be a problem. We just don't have that. And that's what's a shame.
But that's just part of who Romero is, though, isn't it? It's part of his personality. It's his shithousery, as we call it, which we just, well, I'm all for it. I love it. And he is by far our best defender. Whether that's a low bar or not, he is our best defender. And we miss him when he's not in the team, but not just because of what he does defensively. I think Jack mentioned it. He's also the only defender that's really trying to be a bit more progressive with whether that's passing progressively or moving with the ball forward, making himself available more progressively. And that's what we need. We need more of it. I think the frustration that comes from him, I think it started, didn't it, with the was it sending off in the Champions League exit? And I think that's when his temperament started to get questioned a bit more. And I think the reason it's probably swelled in the way it has on social media is because people recognise how much we rely on him. And if he does get himself that booking or that second booking, it's the frustration's not about his qualities as a player. It's about the fact he's going to rule himself out for a game or 3 games, or I think he's close to the limit again, isn't he, for a yellow card suspension again. So I think it's those things that we recognise that we need Romero in our team. So it's that, I think, more than anything. But, he's a World Cup. He's an Argentinian World Cup winner. He's our best defender by far. He's brilliant. And, we should not, in my mind's eye, like similar to Jack, putting any criticism his way. Really, he's quality.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at first defenders of the last decade, I mean, we take King retired in 2012. Since King, we've only really had Toby, Jan, and Romero that I would say was amazing, or very, very good. So I don't know what people are wanting. Like, if he gets the other card and he's out for a couple of games, well, Sanchez will come in, and logically you and I would might think, okay, fine, 6 Sanchez in the middle and let Dyer do what Romero does, because that might be a better fit. But we all know that won't happen, right? We all know that Dyer's going to stay in the middle of whoever's there, and so we need Romero to be playing. And what is it? I mean, how many games have we played now? 30. So he's got 2 games. I think before he's got to go 2 games without getting yellow.
Yeah,
right. The problem. I mean, he'll probably get one. Like, it's almost weird. It's almost better for him to get the yellow against Bournemouth, because then he misses Newcastle and Man United, as opposed to Man United and Liverpool. Like, I mean, there's no good answer there. But fingers crossed. Maybe Spurs will say it's only Bournemouth. We won't play him.
Yeah,
I mean, we won't do that either.
Am I not right? Am I not right in thinking that last season in the running, He had to miss. He had to go a few games without getting the yellow. And he did it, didn't he? Didn't he go like 4 or 5 games without getting the yellow?
And then he got injured anyway. We were worried he would miss the North London derby, and then he ended up missing it anyway because he got injured. Yeah. I remember the exact same conversation.
So he can do it. He'll be fine.
Okay, so it's a sensible segue to defending a goal, but this isn't really Romero's fault. So 33 minutes, Brighton have a corner. My view of it in the stadium was, there's a really tall guy over there. Watch him. Oh, yeah. And then you watch it back on TV and go, crikey, it looks even worse, kind of slowed down. Dunk just has makes a quite good run, doesn't he? It's a back post, but in terms of who's like marking him. Jack, what was your take on their equalizer?
Yeah, it's frustrating for me because I didn't play at a high enough level to understand zonal marking. The only game I ever played was everyone gets their man and you stick with them, and that way we know whose fault it is when they score, right? So I mean, maybe that's just easy for coaching and responsibility purposes, but my feeling is that there are other teams that play zonal marking, right? I think you can look at a City, or you can look at some of the best teams in Europe. They don't do man on man. They are doing a zonal system, but you still have to take responsibility for what your area is, and also take in consideration where the ball's going, right? Mm-hmm. And there's one person on that pitch who's the most dangerous. It is Dunk. So I'm just not sure why you can't have a zonal system that says, oh, by the way, he can't run free. Or something. It just is a mystery to see him peel, like you're saying, just peels off with a good run. But again, everyone just kind of sticks in their territory, and it's a good header. But I mean, it's a great header actually. But I mean, I don't understand. It just frustrates me when I see that, because it seems so unnecessary.
Yeah, Craig, what did you make of it?
I thought it was. My take on it was. We can have a bigger conversation about zonal marking and Tottenham zonal marking, but I'm not sure who was meant to be in that zone doing the job in the first place, because from where I was standing, it looked like he had acres back there. I've not watched the goal again on TV, if I'm being honest, but it certainly felt like there was no one in that area of the box to pick up, and he had, free run it. But like you said, Becky, even before the goal kick was taken, you could see that sort of back post area was just very light on white shirts. And you just thought to yourself, well, if I was them, where would I look to deliver the ball? Which is exactly where they did it. So that was my take on it.
Yeah, and Kerry's put in the chat as well that
HG Jack.
Well, it was supposed. They had a corner just not long after they scored, and Skip then marked him. So it must have been Skip's job, but he's not tall enough to do it anyway, because Dunk is really, really tall. Thing that frustrated me as well is kind of Lloris's positioning for the goal. By the time he sort of gets anywhere near the header, he's behind the goal line. And I know we mentioned it before, didn't we? But I just think that comes from kind of how he plays and how they are as a kind of collective. Lloris is not organising them. He's not got that kind of presence. It was coming, and I think that's what we said. You could tell it was like a matter of time, really, that they were going to score. And I think if Brighton should have gone in at least with a point, it was just going to happen, and we were just kind of waiting for it, which is kind of what's happened a lot this season, really. So we kind of get to half time, and then. I went in and met some friends at half time. It was great. And then I came back out, I think about 50 minutes. And and then HG, what's your take on the Welbeck incident?
That it was a very, very harsh decision to disallow that one. It didn't seem particularly clear on the replays that it hit his arm. You think it probably did, but that hit his arm in the same way that Llorente scored with his arm back at, the Etihad a few years ago. It was, I mean, like the only thing you could say is that the deflection is what fooled Lloris. I do believe that. And so when you think it's had that much of an influence on the shot itself, you can understand why it's disallowed. But if I was a Brighton fan, I would be going mental at that, because that in no way was it clear. It was about the fourth or fifth view where you finally saw the kind of behind the goal where you could see whereabouts it might have hit him. but it felt like the VAR was looking for a reason to disallow it, because no one in the ground probably, and certainly not me watching it on TV, thought, "Oh, that's questionable." We all thought it was a good goal. I didn't even see the deflection. So thank you again, VAR. I don't know whether it was the main VAR or the assistant VAR, but one of you guys has a connection to Spurs, obviously.
What did you think of it, Craig? Because that was your end.
Yeah, I did. I must admit, I didn't think it. I thought it was a perfectly good goal. To be honest, I just thought, great, here we go, and like I say, VAR come to the rescue. Which I think for us this season doesn't feel like we've had much luck with VAR. So no. I'll take it, you know. And to be honest with you, as I've said before, the way we were playing and the way that Brighton were playing, the only way we was going to win that game or get anything out of the game was a bit of a VAR help. So you know, in this instance, I take it with both hands and we'll go from there. If we had conceded that goal, by the way, and they had scored that goal, I think it would have ended up 3 or 4 for Brighton. Yeah. I think it would have turned into a bloodbath on the field and off the field. So you know, thank God for VAR this week. That's all I'd say. But yeah, I thought it was a good goal. Should have stood.
Yeah. Jack, you agree with that?
I guess I have to. I would. I actually would.
You don't have to.
I may need to watch. I guess I'm gonna have to go up Spurs plays and rewatch it, because what I saw, at least what I don't know. I think we see the same stuff that I get at NBC. I saw angles that clearly the harm was extended. That's what caused the deflection, and that's under rules as a handball. I thought of the three decisions, that was the one that I felt the most comfortable with. I am surprised that in other words, it was kind of like the other two were like, okay, they went with the ruling on the field. So I understand that you didn't see anything clearly to change it. This one defined something in it that clearly means you need to overrule it. But actually that was the one I thought Brighton fans would be the least aggrieved about, because it seemed to me clearly that the arm was what deflected the ball and caused the goal. But maybe I need to rewatch it, because I'll be honest with you, other than at the moment in time, I haven't looked at it since. I haven't seen anything online. I'd have to go back and look at it, but I wasn't as convinced as everyone else seems to be that it was a good goal, actually. So we didn't really see. You couldn't see the deflection. To me, it just felt like he kind of had McAllister was trying to kind of turn away from it and try and get out of the way, as it were, and then maybe like HG says, a deflection then causes it to go into Lloris. I just saw Lloris kind of flailing about, going, "Oh God, what's going on here?" But to be fair to Romero, he does that like immediately. I saw that before I really saw what McAllister was doing. I've obviously seen it back since. Yeah, I'm exactly with Craig. I really thought if he'd scored that, then it was just going to be a one-way traffic, much like when Villa scored on the New Year's Day, and it just kind of went from there. And so, yeah, a lot of people are kind of putting into the chat. We're going to come to that in a bit later on. I want you to kind of, in the chat, try and think of all the dodgy VARs that you can remember that have gone against Tottenham, and we're going to bring them up later on, because this is the point I made on Holly's show earlier, that, this kind of outcry of VAR-ness, it's not like we benefit from them all the time. So in the chat, jot down all the ones that you can remember that have gone against us, and we'll kind of bring them up when we get to the penalty incident with Højbjerg. Yeah, so that's the Welbeck one. And then 4 minutes later, we're just getting ready for a normal free kick. And where I was in the South Stand, you can see the free kick over there. I think it was Dyer or Perisic or somebody like that was going back to curl it in. You watch the ball kind of curl in, and I think Matoma was fouled by somebody, and the ref blows quite quickly. And behind, you can just see the kind of Chelsea, Milan, Sporting kind of melee going on. And then, yeah, the kind of, what kind of comes out. And like I said before, I didn't know about the kind of the incident before and the press conference and things. So it was just like completely. And TV sort of only sort of picked it up, didn't they, once the free kick had kind of finished. Jack, what do you make of all of that, and kind of where Stellini stands with the ban and all of that? Yeah, have they announced anything official for him?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, don't think so.
Yeah, so obviously, back to the goal that was disallowed. My wife agrees with you, Craig and Becky, that it was going to be a bloodbath, because that's when she said, "Okay, I'm done." She went upstairs to do whatever she wanted to do, because she gets all aggravated as well. So she left the room at that point. And then, of course, I had to call her. I was like, "Hey, you're missing a good fight. Come back." So we came downstairs to watch it. And for me, I understand why Sneely got the the red because I understand the rules. You have to control your bench. But I'm going to be interested to see what De Zerbi got, because that's his second red. He's got 4 yellows. And from what I understand from the journalists that were covering the game, the entire game he was coming into leaving the technical box into the Spurs half over and over and over again. It was the entire first half that was going on, and it continued in the second half. So I'm gonna be curious as to see what he gets, because I feel like it's a situation where I wouldn't even be surprised Stellini doesn't even get a 1-match ban, because he couldn't control his bench, but he also wasn't involved. He was completely, in fact, it was kind of funny. He was kind of like, I don't know what's going on over there. He's just kind of standing there like it's not even happening. It was kind of weird looking.
And there's some great gifs. There's some great gifs on Twitter of that already. He's kind of looking right at the camera like this, going with his kind of like pointy ears going, and it's all like going off behind him.
There's one gif where they've basically put some voice over the video footage, and you've got De Zerbi saying, I'm going to end you, or you dare come at me, I'll end you, and all this sort of stuff. And then you see the ruckus, and you've got Stellini bottling it in the corner, afraid to go into it. But yeah, it was funny. But I think that incident, it was probably what we needed at that point in the game as a crowd, because that the crowd was done. It was we were cooked. And I'm talking, I don't know if you agree, Becky, but for me, at that point of the game, it was like, it's that air of inevitability. There's nothing. We didn't get anything coming from the players to show that we're up for this. There was nothing. And then that kicked off. And it was like, oh, hello, this is a bit interesting. And I think it definitely benefited us more than it benefited Brighton or benefited the players. Actually, I think we really got up from that, or I certainly that's the sense I got from myself.
Which is interesting, isn't it? Yesterday, was it with the Xhaka thing at Liverpool, and they were saying it was a similar thing there, that kind of got the Anfield crowd going, and that kind of brought that, and that sort of happened there. And it is, like we said before, it's old school kind of banter, things that kind of go on, that kind of energy level resonates around the pitch, and that sort of like electricity almost. And it did, and it, like I said, it I think it just reminded people that there is some sort of fight there, and we've got to see this through, and it kind of tried to sort of change the intensity level. I agree with that. Definitely.
And I think as well, the other thing, I don't know, again, I thought, oh, hello a minute, Mason, change something up, Mason, do something, change it. And I was hoping and praying for Mason to get hold of it and go, right, I'm going to do something different here. We're going to try and control this game and try and do something. I mean, as it happens, it didn't really materialize in that way. But it was definitely a good positive kick. I don't know, Jack, did you sense that from you watching the game as well?
Yeah, I could definitely pick up on the atmosphere change on TV. There was no question that there was a lot more coming in from the crowd at that point. It really, I think you're right, Craig. It was really a good thing that happened. I was really starting to get a little excited about it because you could see the energy was different.
We've got it all going on, haven't we? Yeah, I'm echoing now. Jack.
Okay, great.
Okay. Oh, it's hard talking with echo. Am I echoing or am I just echoing in my ear? Okay.
You're not echoing now.
Oh, good, it's gone. Whew. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us for all the tech. So yeah, we had the handbags and the argy-bargy, and we'll wait to see what happens with Stellini. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because if he's been penalised because he can't control his staff, there's not really much to come back from that. Like you said, he wasn't actually involved. But if that's the rule, what can he do? But I did say on Holly's show earlier on, if that's the case, then every manager's going to not finish a game from now on, isn't it? Because Klopp does that and Pep does that, and they're kind of going over to other. Arteta's never in his technical area, so is that set a precedent now? But De Zerbi has got some previous, so he spent half the season, hasn't he, watching it from the stands, his games. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. But Mason, his wife had the baby, didn't she, last week? I think Alistair Gold said that last night. So at least he's not yet disappearing off onto paternity leave. So he, if necessary, can be in the dugout on Saturday for Bournemouth. But yeah, so after that, we had a little bit kind of half chances. There was some nice interplay, Son and Kane. Kane had one where he kind of blasted it over, and then there was one I remember where Kane hit it to Kulusevski and he curled it, but he didn't get enough curl on it, and that was pretty much it. And then, Craig saying no, we're hoping it sort of jolted everybody into life and changed. And then they had like arguably the most controversial VAR incident with Mitoma and Højbjerg accidentally standing on his foot, and that's the one that the refereeing people have come out, haven't they, and apologized to say that they did get that one wrong. HG, what do you make of them coming out afterwards and apologizing? Is that the right thing to do, or does that just make it carry on?
I guess that's what they have to do. I think the whole thing for me is trying to keep score as to who had bad decisions is irrelevant here. The relevant point should be how the heck do we improve the VAR system, because it's not going anywhere. So rather than at the end of the season saying, well, they got 4 good ones and we got 6 bad ones, so we've been hard done by, it's not going to change. To me, the issue is, if you need lines for an offside decision, then you just leave it as it was. Right, that's it. You don't need, if it's lines, it's too close to call, fair enough. With the one that they missed for the Brighton penalty, what can you do? I don't think you can do anything. There's 2 of them in the VAR room, and neither one of them saw it, which to me means both of them should no longer be referees at any level, let alone at the Premier League level. If you miss something that obvious and you're watching it on TV, there's an issue. And that's why I think for most fans, you look at that and you think something suspicious is going on, because you can't miss it. No one missed it watching it at home. Nobody did. No, the commentators don't miss it, but apparently the VAR referees do, the ones who know the rules more than anyone else. Do me a favour. There's no way. So to me, when that happens, it has to be something sinister. I can't believe people are that stupid. You don't get to be the top of the referee profession if you make decisions like that. You can't rise to the top. Something else, and I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I'm sorry, I cannot believe that is incompetence alone. I just can't.
What did you make of it, Craig?
Well, I definitely thought... Oh, I've got an echo. Oh, echo again.
Jack, do you want to answer it?
Am I echoing? No? Sounds all right. Actually, when HG's talking, maybe when he mutes, maybe that's, I'm not sure. But anyway, the issue with the what HG's saying, I hate to say it, but if your 2 conclusions are incompetence or sinister, intent, I feel better if it's incompetence, but I understand why the rest of everyone says it's sinister intent, because it is. I mean, I didn't see it at speed at live. I didn't pick up that it was a pen, but obviously on the first replay, it clearly, as unintentional as it is, it's still pen. So I don't see how you don't give it. And the thing is about the VAR, you don't actually have to overrule it. All you got to do is send the guy over to the monitor. You don't even have to. You're not even the one saying, hey, you missed it. You just say, hey, you might want to look at it. It's a little close. Why don't you go over to the monitor and take a look at it? And the person on the field can make the determination that he missed it or not. I mean, it seems like a strange one, in the same way that, the week before Southampton, I still don't understand how anyone looks at that and says that's a penalty on SAR, because I don't see any of the contact, certainly not enough to justify that there was actual contact that caused him to go down. So that's just 2 weeks in a row where I just don't understand the point of having these people in a booth if they're going to miss things that badly. To HG's point, it's not a rule issue. It's not an interpretation issue. It's not a technology issue. It's just human beings with eyeballs, and that's all that they can't get right. It's mystifying. I'm sorry for Brighton. I don't feel bad at all, because I don't know any Brighton fans, but I don't feel all that bad because, we've seen all the comments here. There's a good dozen of them about, we've been aggrieved. So everyone's getting screwed in the system. No one's getting away with it. Everyone's getting it. It's like we're trading points. Okay, we got 3 that we shouldn't have, but we should have gotten 3 over there. So it all evens out. I don't understand why that's the system. That makes no sense.
You're right, I think, with the Southampton one, because no one, you told them to go and look at the screen, and that happened again, didn't it, on Saturday with that one? It's just we've seen Kane have those ones, and Salah, where they do make the contact, where they stand on their foot and they go down. Even Romero's on Monday, wasn't like a massive lunge. He catches him, he goes down, he feels the contact. It was, I must admit, I didn't massively see it live. I just saw him go down, but I spent like pretty much what felt like from about 60 minutes going, don't dive in, don't dive in, don't dive in, don't dive in, like that all game. So when players went down, it was kind of, it's just the way it was. But of course, like I said before, we don't see the replays of anything, so we're just sort of waiting to kind of see what happened. And then looking back on it, you think that would have been one that would have been given.
Like I think what would improve things is if the referee just goes straight to the monitor while the VAR check is happening. He doesn't need to wait in the centre circle with his finger over his ear. Do I need to go over there? No, just go over there. Just run over there. It gets you away from the players anyway. You can have your own area where you're by yourself rather than spending 20 seconds trying to push the players away. Just get out of sight. Go over there, because if you're needed, you're going to need to be there anyway. Like, to me, it's about like if you can lessen the time it takes. If you can say to people, right, you've got a minute to make your decision. No matter what you need, you've got a minute. Go. Right, and the ref runs over to the monitor just in case he's needed, and that's part of the minute. And if the VAR refs can't decide straight away, then they have maybe 30 seconds to say, right, now it's your chance. You've got 30 seconds to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the game, you add on a minute for every time you have a VAR stoppage. Like, I think those things would be very easy to do. But if you don't do that, then it almost makes me think that there's some Vince McMahon character who's writing the storylines. Like, what is best for the Premier League right now? Because maybe 3 weeks ago when we got screwed at Southampton, it was good that we got screwed, and it was good that Southampton got a point. And maybe now that Newcastle and Man United are winning every game, crap, we've got to give Spurs 3 points, otherwise there's no top 4 race. Like, again, I don't want to think this, but what else are you supposed to think? I do not believe that people are that incompetent. I can't believe that.
Jack, your face said it all then. But the thing is, that sounds really like what you just said, and you make it that. And I just said, all the people that have thank you for joining in, who have put in the comments about the VARs that have gone against us. We've got Sissoko Champions League. I mentioned earlier on about Dyer's when Carroll pushed him into the handball. We had SARS last weekend. We had the handball at West Ham, which didn't matter because we won the game. I can remember Kane at Southampton last year. Brentford this year when he was rugby tackled away around Christmas time, and that wasn't given. I can remember some fingernail lines when VAR was first brought in. We could go on, and this idea that Spurs are always getting the decisions is absolutely nonsense, because we don't.
No. I mean, I can't. I don't believe it's a conspiracy. I guess I don't want to believe there's a conspiracy, because that's the whole integrity of the whole Premier League is done. Yeah. But if there is someone there, a higher purpose, a higher person, trying to make sure we stay in the game at the top 4, I'm all for it. Because we're not going to do it on our own, are we? Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's true. And I will say that if there is a job that you can interview for being scriptwriter for the Premier League, then I want to know about it, because I'm putting my resume in.
Yeah. And people saying that all clubs have their issues, don't they? And they have, and maybe it does balance out. Who knows? Right, let's get on to the goal. So I'm still echoing, so I'm going to slow down while I'm talking. So we said earlier, massive interception from Romero. So yeah, he's got his faults and his kind of the silly bookings, but his progressive play and his moving up the field makes that interception, gets the ball to Son. Son does a lovely nutmeg, finds Højbjerg, which we haven't kind of said, but Kulusevski was replaced for Danjuma. And there was a massive, ironic cheer in the stadium, much like when Spence came on. And interestingly, Danjuma tweeted, and he put the word free in the end of his tweet. If you've seen it, the kind of the free Danjuma thing, he actually puts the word free in his tweet. So he was. I looked and thought, it's Danjuma's going to be in that position, but he wasn't. It was Højbjerg. There's a few times this season where he's got into those type of positions. I can remember the assist for the Sonny at the Frankfurt game, and there has been times for Bentancur where he's played it into position. So he's quite Marmite, isn't he, Højbjerg? There's these really annoying times where he loses possession and he's running around, and then there's times like that where he did a fantastic pass back to Kane, And where we were in the South Stand, I said after the goal, when you saw Kane kind of running through all that space, I was like, well, it's going to be on target if nothing else. And, what a fantastic finish, first time with all that power. Because Kane had, like I said, Kane had that one just slightly before where he blasted it over. But yeah, and you could see the relief on Kane's face, because when he scores the second goals, you can see, the importance of that in his face. And yeah, it was a great goal. HG, what was your take on that goal?
Just that Harry Kane can hit a moving ball from 18 yards better than Mo Salah can hit a stationary one from 12. Seems to be the thing here. Because, when you're watching it, I guess I didn't realise how far Kane out was when he shot. But he's on the edge of the box. That's not an easy shot. Even if you get the connection that you desire, which he did, you've got to get it on target. There was a whole bunch of Brighton players between him and the goal, plus the keeper. There can't have been too many places for that ball to go and still go in the net. But yeah, we've got a wonderful world-class player who plays for Spurs, and thankfully Brighton forgot he existed.
Yeah, I was saying it wasn't who you expected to be there, because it's not a position that Kane is normally in. And that sort of, when we're attacking like that, you just don't expect it to be him that would be there. What did you make of it at home, Jack?
Yeah, I think the few things that are quite underrated or not spoken about, from what I can tell, is the start of the play. It's really a fantastic anticipation. In other words, he's got a decision. Does he come into his back to try and hold him there? Does he get spun on the other side, or does he actually anticipate that he's going to do the flick off and then run? And he called it perfectly. I mean, it's a great step. It's a really good step up to intercept the ball. Sonny, nutmeg or pass. And, with Pierre, one of the things that I know, he's taken a lot of flack, a lot of grief from people. No one's played more minutes than that guy. I can't imagine that he's got to be feeling it at this point. But one thing that shows me again is that I feel like we're doing him a disservice with two-man midfield all the time, because he's actually really good. Let me rephrase that. Much better than he gets credit for moving forward, going into the attack. He actually has a lot of good awareness on the field of where people are. And he didn't telegraph that at all. I wasn't looking for the cutback at all. I was seeing if he could fit it into Danjuma. I was not seeing, again, I can't see Kane, unlike in the stadium, I can't see him running in. So for me, there's nobody there until the ball's sent. And then I see Kane come into my picture. And then that finish, to your point, if he doesn't hit it with the pace that he hits it, that's deflected out of bounds, because I don't know which defender got a leg on it. But the pace of it prevented him being able to get it, off frame. It's a brilliant finish. It really is. Yep. And, I came out of my seat on that one. It was really well played.
Yeah, agree with that, Craig?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Amazing finish. Like I say, I don't think we expect anything less from Kane, though, do we? He's clinical in those positions, and it was there when I was impressed with the assist, to be honest, from Højbjerg. I thought it was very a calm and composed assist from Højbjerg to pick him out in that space that he did, and the finish was just. I mean, obviously, I had a great view of that down the throat of that, and it was a well hit strike, like I say. But the assist for me from Pierre, I think, deserves a bit of credit. He gets a lot of stick, doesn't he? Our favourite Viking, but he's played probably more minutes than anyone else in the Premier League in our team this season. Set in the Premier League, 4 assists, 4 goals. He's for all his faults, and he's not the perfect midfielder. He steps out and is counted for when we need him, and I think that's a great example. We needed him to come up and do something with the ball, and he did. And well done, Kane, brilliant.
Yeah, and that's what I said. It was not the first time we've looked up and it's been Højbjerg in that position playing it back inside. I remember when Kulusevski was injured, and I can remember it quite a few times. But going back to Kane, Kane's got 23 goals now. That's the same that Sonny got last year for the Golden Boot, and my Jack said that. So in a season when normally 23 is phenomenal, we're only on the 10th of April, and we've got 8 games left. And he's 206 Premier League now, and he's only 2 behind Rooney. So the kind of the records that are in his way, he keeps knocking them away.
I mean, I think there's not enough expletives to describe Kane. We've been there before. We talked about it before, but to get 23 goals in this team this season is unbelievable. And, it just goes to show, where would we be without Kane in our side? It's not even worth comprehending. I mean, we've got to comprehend it, because I think, again, there's an air of inevitability that we will lose Kane sooner rather than later. But it's a phenomenal achievement. And, I guess in many ways it just goes even further to see how well Haaland's doing up the road in Manchester. But
78% of the goals this season have come from Kane. And I think, like you said before, Richarlison hasn't scored in the league. Sonny's on 9, I think. We've had Bentancur goals and Højbjerg goals. We've had Dyer goals, Davis goals, Royal goals. Really, without Kane's goals, I said to someone on Saturday, we'd be like 6th. And that's what's so worrying, is that, when 6th from bottom. Sorry.
Yeah, 6th bottom.
In the bottom 6 is what I mean. Sorry. Not 6th. Bottom 6. Yeah. Is that if when he does go, who comes in has to be of the same standard, and that's what maybe people thought Richarlison was going to do, and that's I think not quite working, is it?
Yeah, it's just an impossibility, isn't it? There's no one in world football we can sign who's going to replace Kane. It's a bit like, when we sold Bale to Madrid, wasn't it? It's a bit like, well, we know we cannot replace Bale, but let's try and make it up for Bale in the different component parts. Right,
7 players, wasn't it?
Exactly. In that case, yeah. And we all know how that turned out. So it's going to be interesting. And you never know. By some miracle, we may find a way to keep him. But I don't know what that miracle would look like. But you never know. But there's just no replacing Kane in this team. It just means we've got to find a different way to play, haven't we? And and other players have, more so have got to step up. It's going to be interesting. But then, look, let's not all be down about it. Leicester won the Premier League without Kane up top. Leicester won the FA Cup without Kane up top. Other teams have won FA Cups and Premier Leagues without Kane up top. It's not essential to have Kane to go on to be a successful side. We can go on and be a successful side without Kane. It's just going to be hard.
Erling may have 45, 50 goals, and City may not win the league.
Exactly.
It's just nuts, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So little kind of bits to add at the end, really. Sarr came on for a bit. Tanganga came on. So we're saying rather than Sanchez, he brought Tanganga on, but we just went deeper and deeper and deeper. And I was just constantly going, "What? Don't dive in! Don't do that." And there was that one, was it near the end, where there was someone went round Tanganga, and he kind of kicked a leg at him, didn't he? And it kind of went out, and I was still, oh crikey. But yeah, so I've written in the run sheet here, we hung on. I think that's fair to say, isn't it, for everybody watching it? But so go on.
I'll give you some, since my son Isaiah, who's a student out there, also sends game recaps to Franca for the pod, and I steal his work that he does, and so just some things to keep in. I mean, if you look at, I actually didn't think, I guess because we won, I put my blue colored glasses on, thinking that we had done better than we really had. But when you look at it in the cold facts of the stats, I mean, if you look at just touches, and Kane only had like 30 touches. Marsh had 92. I mean, all their midfield had more touches than our midfield. If you look at just the ground duels and aerial duels, I mean, we got played off the pitch. It's just remarkable. Casado had a wonderful game, and we were just putting out fires left and right. It was remarkable. They had more passes in our half than we had completed passes. So it just gives you a sense of how dominant Brighton were, and how there's no excuse for them other than VAR for not walking away with those points. So what I will say is the green shoots were that the team, I thought, a higher level of effort. I saw a lot more challenges. I saw a lot more fight, certainly in that second half, but they were just outclassed. Technically, tactically, it was just not even close, unfortunately. There were nice combinations of the front three. I mean, but the final ball, particularly with Becky, was atrocious. So, I saw evidence that the team was starting to play better at moments, but man, it was, when I look at all this stuff, it's just amazing.
Like tidbits, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were just, very lucky. But again, how many games have we, in years past completely dominated and come away with nothing? So it is football. So the fact is we got 3 points. We can move on to the next game and maybe, take some of the positives that I think I do recall and go to a Bournemouth side that is certainly fighting for their life. So it's not going to be an easy game, but it's just amazing. I look at this. I mean, McAllister had 66 touches. No one on our team had any close. I mean, Casado's 76. Gross 93 touches. I mean, most in the match. It's just remarkable. That's a good side, I'll tell you. And De Zerbi, if he can get his temper under control a little bit, he could have a seriously good career in England, I think.
Yeah. So we finished the game 5th, 3 behind Newcastle, which when I saw the results came up, and then when I was on the way home, had a stop at the services and saw that Tony had missed a penalty as well, which is a shame. So they beat Newcastle beat Brentford, but we've opened up a 6-point gap to Villa. But these, I don't know if we've got a slide for this, but the next, our 8 fixtures remain in our Bournemouth at home. Then we've got that week where we've got Newcastle away, United at home on the Thursday, Liverpool away on the Sunday, then Palace at home on the Coronation Day, and then Villa away. Villa are having some form, and then Brentford at home, and then Leeds away. So, people are saying that Spurs have got the easier run-in compared to the sides around them, but there are some very, very tricky fixtures there. I said earlier on Holly's show that, when we're, Man United and Newcastle have got games in hand above us. There'll come a point where we possibly can't catch them no matter what, and that's when the Everton, losing the lead at Everton, losing the lead at Southampton, playing dreadful at Wolves, those 3 away games, and they're just the 3 I can remember, are games that are such a missed opportunity. They're the games that on paper that we're supposed to win, yet we, beat Chelsea, beat City, beat West Ham, and I don't know about anybody else, but I really can't predict the remaining 8 fixtures. And I've said a long time ago that I thought we would finish 5th.
I mean, the thing is, Becky, like you said that we've got an easy run in. We've got 5 of the top 9 left, and that's it, and that's excluding the top 2. But we've got to play 3rd, 4th, 6th, 8th, and 9th, and we just played Brighton. So I don't know how we've got the easy run in, but I have faith in Vince McMahon that he will keep us up there. So, because if we're not winning, look, we'd be 6 points off top 4. Top 4 will be done for everyone. So Spurs are going to get a few more VAR decisions over the next few weeks. We're going to beat Man United. We're going to beat Liverpool. We're going to beat Newcastle just to keep things interesting.
Craig, what do you make of our running?
Okay, I think it's really tough. I mean, there's fixtures in there. Ordinarily, you would say a Tottenham side should go on and comfortably get a result. You would expect us to get a result against Bournemouth. You would expect us to get a result against Palace. You would expect us to get something against Brentford, even Leeds. But the reality is, the way we're playing at the moment, you look at them fixtures, we'll probably get dominated against Bournemouth in terms of possession. We'll get dominated against Newcastle in terms of possession. We'll get dominated against Man United in terms of possession. Liverpool will run us off the park. Palace will run us off the park. Villa will run us off the park. Brentford will run us off the park. There's nothing in there you look at and go, you're going to go into that game and see us being on top and, and have a good go at the game. You just know what it's going to be. It's rinse and repeat from what we've seen. And none of that fills me with any confidence. And I think that's why we go into these games and the way we do at the moment with this air of inevitability, and even if we score, I don't think any of us have got any confidence that we're going to keep a clean sheet, without the help of VAR or Vince McMahon or whatever.
Or kick on and win 2-3-0 either.
Exactly. And this is the worrying thing. So, we need to be, if we are going to have any chance of top 4, we need to be perfect. And, we absolutely need to beat Bournemouth. We absolutely need to beat Newcastle. We absolutely need to beat Man United, because if we don't beat Man United and Newcastle, we've got no hope. That's it. So I just don't see enough. I don't think we've got enough in us to be perfect, is in my honest opinion. And I don't want to be negative, but
like if we're looking at
Though, I mean, I'm looking at 15 teams in that photo. How many of those teams play with a midfield 2? Is it just us? I'm pretty certain it's just us. Everyone else, if they have a 2 that sit deep, they have a number 10. So they basically play 3 in midfield. I'm pretty certain we're the only team there that play a midfield 2 week in, week out. It's an absolute miracle that we are where we are. And the fact that we're not going to change it is just insane. But we're firm in our belief that defensive football with 2 midfielders is going to get us where we need to be. It's absolutely mental.
Yeah, it is. So in my run sheet now, it says if we want, we can have a bit of a chat about results yesterday. Kind of some of the incidents I alluded to earlier about the Xhaka kind of handbags that sort of, improved the crowd a little bit at Anfield, and then Martinelli and, his trip to hospital because he got hit in the face, didn't he? And then, I was saying before I watched the Wrexham game. Did anybody watch the Wrexham game today? The Wrexham Notts County game?
I couldn't watch. I
wish
I could.
It was. I live in Chester. It's 10 minutes from Wrexham. I'm also from Shrewsbury, so it's a big deal. They've both got over 100 points, and now Wrexham have got 103. And it's this idea that only one of them will go up automatically. They are head and shoulders. And there's lots of people tweeting me saying, "Greggy, this is such a great game. Have Spurs stifled us so much that we've forgotten what enjoyable end-to-end attacking football looks like?" But there was some seriously shocking defending. Anybody that watched it, I think, half of the goals wouldn't have happened, but that made it far more insane. I think when you're a bit more of a neutral, it's a bit of an easier watch. So do we want to talk about managers or anything like that? I haven't spoken to you three about managers for a couple of weeks. HG, where are you with the managers? Or Craig, go on you, Craig.
No, let HG go first. He's got lots of good views.
Where am I with managers? I want someone that the fans will like, someone that will play attacking football and unify us. I'm not too fussed about where they've managed previously, because I've never been fussed about that, to be honest. But as to who that will be, I don't think that Daniel Levy would know how to pick a manager. I don't have any confidence that Scott Munn will know how to pick a manager. So it may well be whoever does the best PowerPoint presentation, or whoever gets closest to Mrs. Levy might get the job. But so Diver, he must be like third choice right now, so close to Mrs. Levy. But I genuinely have no idea where Spurs are going to go, and I don't really want to think about it because I know for the next 8 games it doesn't matter.
Craig?
Yeah, so I'm the same as HG in many ways. I just want someone that's going to come in and be a really big personality, bring the fans on the journey, bring the players on the journey, but more importantly, get us playing front foot football, possession-based front foot football, progressive football. Who that will be, I really genuinely don't have a Scooby. Whether I still think that I think I'm the same view as HG. I listened to him in the pod last week. We need to sort out the Paratici situation first and foremost. I think that will be the first job on Munn's list. Whether he's able to do that well is a different question. But I certainly think that with Scott Munn being from Australia, and that way the Postecoglou rumours will surely ramp up another level, and that's a name that I've been quite vocal about for the last few months. I think he would be a potential good manager for Spurs. To be fair, I think he ticks a lot of the boxes in terms of what we need, and what we're looking for. He's not necessarily the big name that a lot of fans. I know I mentioned it at the ground on Saturday. I thought I was going to get booted out, but he's not. It may not be the big name that fans want, but Pochettino wasn't the big name that fans wanted when he joined either. And look what we got under Poch. So why can't Postecoglou do the same thing?
Jack, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I'll echo everything that's just been said. I'll just add a few things, I guess, which is I know who I don't want. I don't want Luis Enrique. I don't have any problem with him as a manager. I just don't see how we're going to get the players in that would be required for him to be successful. I don't want another big name that is potentially bigger than the club in some people's minds, including the manager himself. I don't want Brendan Rodgers. I don't want Silva from Fulham. There's a lot of people I don't want. But I can certainly go with the profile of you want someone who's dynamic. I don't care where they are. I think, there are certain managers that would be easier to play under with less heart surgery or on the team, or open heart surgery on the team. In other words, Glasner plays a similar system. We have players that would quickly slot into what he wants to do, that he's done at Frankfurt, but that's still more of a system of where, it's not a lot of ball possession. And, it's more of a counterattacking type of style from what I can gather, from what I've seen a little bit. And I guess HG would know better, but I just agree. I could absolutely get along with Postecoglou. I don't have a problem with where he's been or where he is. You get him some ball playing center backs, and I think he could ingratiate himself to the fan base very quickly. He would be thrilled, I think, to be at a club like Tottenham. That would be a huge opportunity for him. So I'd be fine with that. I think the guy at Emerin would be great, potentially. It sounds like he wants to stay, doesn't think he wants to come to England, which good for him. I like a manager who likes where he is and wants to stay and see out a project, but I think he'd be great. Again, would play a similar system. The existing personnel would slot in relatively well. I just don't want us to make the same mistake of getting some big name manager that we don't support with the right players. We need somebody who's going to take what we've got and make them better and get everyone to buy into what he's doing, because otherwise it's just rinse, wash, and repeat again with what we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years. And I don't have any confidence that if they get the decision right, I think it would be luck rather than actual skill and strategy and plan.
So, listening to all of that and reading all of the comments, what happens if Poch gets the job? Where do we all stand with that? Do we all just bite our tongues and back him and support him, or are we just waiting 6 months for it to all go wrong again and off he goes? Where are we with that? Because I had said this with Holly. I was on Holly's show earlier today, and I said the same thing. Is that I'm rubbish with players from other clubs, let alone managers from other clubs. So I have no idea. If someone comes, I'll support them. I wasn't massively keen on Mourinho, I have to say. I just don't like his demeanour, and that proved to be true. But if Poch comes, a lot of what Jack just said, he can galvanise us. He can, that kind of loving of the club and all of that instantly. So what do we do?
So I was at the ground on Saturday. I was speaking to someone who spoke to someone who spoke to someone who told him that the club is just not considering Pochettino. That is definitely, according to the in the know, that the Pochettino is definitely not on the club's list of coming back. It's just not an option. I was also told in the same conversation that the same players that weren't happy with Poch at the end of his career, when he was at Spurs the first time round, still aren't enamored with the thought of Poch coming back to the club. So you can all guess which players that is specifically. But I don't, from everything I am hearing, I've heard, and I accept it's probably worth nothing. Poch isn't going to come back to Tottenham. I don't think, in answer to the question from Kerry, I don't think Levy gives a flying hoot about what we chant in the stadium or not, to be honest, about the next manager. I think he will make the decision that he wants to make, or Munn will make the decision that Munn wants to make, rather. But yeah, if Poch was to come back, I'm not going to. I don't think. I've talked about this before. I'm never a fan of you never go back sort of thing. I just think that what he achieved the first time round was just phenomenal. The journey that he took Spurs on, and to get us the club to the stature that it was or is now was an unbelievable achievement. And I just don't think he can ever come close to replicating that level of success. Not because Poch isn't good enough. I just think that it's just, we took such a fundamental leap in that time. We won't be able to do it again, is my gut feel. So whilst I would support Poch, of course I would. I'll support any manager that comes in as long as he's progressive. then but I don't think it will. I don't think it will work in the long run. It's my view on it.
Can I answer this question, because I think it works in perfectly what Craig is saying. I think everyone's assuming that it's Dyer and Davies that don't want Poch back. What if it's Harry Kane that doesn't want Poch back? Because that, to me, is clearly, I think, the situation. Daniel Levy's not going to listen to Eric Dyer's opinion, really? Come on, but Harry Kane? Of course you are. If Harry Kane has no desire to see Maurizio Pochettino come back, if Harry Kane somehow thinks that Pochettino is the reason, one of the main reasons why he doesn't have a medal, which he easily could, thanks to, Son at left wing back and Michel Form in goal and all the rest of it. Yeah, I mean, again, people talk about, the players not having a say. Harry Kane is Tottenham Football Club right now. He is. And to be fair, I think most fans would rather that Harry Kane was involved in making the managerial decision than Daniel Levy. So, if you want to have, you've got to keep your talent happy, right? And that seems to be what Harry Kane is. So, it's an interesting one. Who is Harry Kane going to pick? Because he scores goals no matter what.
The rumours don't go away, though. When I watched Alistair Gold's show last night, and he was mentioning about tweets that Jesus Perez has done, and the rumours don't keep going away. Normally, when there's a manager or somebody that's linked with us, it's certainly around season ticket renewals as well, but normally when there is someone completely not linked to us, somebody from the club or close to the club kind of leaks it out to say, no, he's not coming. And there hasn't been enough of that to kind of say it's not going to happen. And I think that's what keeps happening. We said this before, that, either put it to bed and then we move on, and that's fine. And then we can kind of, like you said, discuss other people and the arguments for that.
Yeah. I thought if the club wanted Poch back, if that's what the club wanted to do, and they was going to go that way, they would have done it. It would have happened. I just think it's too if they wanted to get married again, go for a second time, it's too convenient. It could have been done when we sacked or agreed to let Conte go. The fact we didn't make that choice then, when it was easy to make that choice then and to make it happen, even if it was announce it now, take over in the summer, we could have done that. It could have been done. The fact it hasn't been done, the longer that doesn't go on, I think the less the chance of it being Pochettino is my take on it. I don't know if others agree.
Yeah, we were saying before that either put it to bed and just leak out that it's not happening, and then that's fine, or he comes and if that's his one chance, it doesn't last, fine, we move on, because because he said he wanted to come back, and he will come back at some point. Until he actually comes back, whoever we get in, as soon as we go on a bad run of results, everyone will be like, well, you should have got Poch in, and Poch is going to come in, yada yada yada. So it's almost like he has to come back anyway, not necessarily now, but he will come back at some point, because otherwise that keeps getting mentioned all the time, and until Poch turns around and says, actually, no, I'm not coming back. Do you see what I mean? It's like, because it's always there at the back, it's always going to keep getting brought up.
But Becky, if Levy comes out right now and says Poch ain't coming back, that's not going to help anything. It's just going to make people more and more angry at him. So
not unless there is somebody else. We said before, the communication with the club has been really poor this season, and that hasn't helped. So if they sort of said it's not happening for this reason, do you know what I mean? Saying nothing doesn't help.
I don't think the club have anyone really in mind. They're not going to come out with 8 games to go and say it's not Poch, it's Postecoglou, because that would screw Celtic over and would make Postecoglou really unhappy. So the club are kind of stuck. They can't really say or do anything, especially in that way, because, if you eliminate Poch and you don't say what you're going to get, everyone goes crazy. But if you do say what you're going to get, and that person's in the job, well, you're screwing them over as well. It's not a great way to start your relationship. So it feels like the club kind of have to just ride things out. And to be fair, that's what Chelsea are doing. So we can see now, that's probably what's going to happen. Whenever the end of the season is, if it's the end of May or middle of June or whenever the internationals are done, then I suspect things will happen where the club can come out and say, or maybe the club are hoping that Pochettino takes a different job and they don't even have to say anything. But logically, Pochettino coming back makes a lot of sense, because we've got a whole bunch of his signings that haven't performed for Spurs that we haven't sold.
So you could say, like Pochettino and the system he was trying to develop with Trippier on one wing and Danny Rose on the other. Well, Pedro Porro is basically Trippier reincarnate. I mean, he can't defend as well, but he's very good going forward. You'd have options down the left-hand side if you want to go with Sessegnon, please no, or the new guy Udogie or whoever. So I feel like if he was trying to, create the next best Tottenham team before he got sacked, well, those players are still around, Jack Clarke aside. So it like there are various reasons to say that Pochettino probably should be the guy. However, it's in no one's interest right now to make any kind of call, because if the club do have a number one choice and they can't name him because he's already got a job, then everyone's stuck in limbo.
So maybe they aren't putting the Poch rumours to bed then, hoping that everyone will renew their season tickets. Because they could very easily just say, no, we're not having him, he's going. Or Poch could, I don't know. Right, okay, I think we've been going an hour and a half. Thank you for everybody that's persevered with us with all of the tech problems. I'm sure none of us have done anything differently that we would normally do, but that's just the way it goes, isn't it, sometimes? But thank you very much for watching. Thank you so much for everyone for joining in the chat, particularly with all your VARs that we've been robbed with. And, we could do a show just on those. Maybe that's a show for the summer, isn't it? When there's nothing to do, we can talk about all the VARs that haven't happened. But yeah, thanks very much for everyone being here. Craig, thanks for being on.
No, love it always. I'm back on Wednesday with normal Wednesday partner in crime, Gibbo. And I think the rest of the panels to be decided. But yeah, it should be good. So come back Wednesday, have a listen.
Great. Jack, thanks for being on, and hope you get home from work fine.
Yep, thanks very much, everyone. I appreciate you having me on. Everyone who's still watching, don't forget to hit that like button. And I look forward to seeing you guys real soon.
Bill, thank you. And HG, have you got the rest of the week off?
No, I'm actually back to school tomorrow.
Oh.
We only get a week and a day here for Easter. But with all the Catholic holidays coming up, I think between now and the end of the school year, I've only got 7 full weeks, because there are Catholic holidays left, right and centre that no one really understands what they're for, but they exist, and various 4-day weekends. So this is the good part of the school year. I mean, there's no difficult part, but this is the best part coming up. But yeah, I just want to let everyone know I won't be doing any more shows until I get a new mic. Sorry for that. But I'll have to put a request into the owners of the cheese room if they can send me a new microphone. This one's obviously had it after almost 5 years of doing these things, but it was good. It was another good show. I love Spurs. I love talking about Spurs, and yeah.
Right. By the way, I see that WWE and the PL is trending on Twitter, so you got something going there.
Right. Let's finish the show. And as usual, we say, "Come on, you Spurs!
Come on, you Spurs!
Come on, you mother!"